Yeah, it's under more.
Yep, got it.
Okay, so I will smudge us a little bit first. Mm, good white sage from California.
Mm, beautiful.
I hope there's still some left. All right. Wakatanka Tecumseh, Great Spirit, Great Mystery God, Creator of the Universe. It is I, Hotus of Manatu Tonka Grey Wolf, inviting you in, asking you to be here as we do this round of storytelling for all the people, and we put them out there. Ancestors of the East, the time of new beginnings, we ask you to come and join us this evening, as this is a time that must be for new beginnings. Ancestors of the South, as we plant seeds and plant ideas and germinate things so that they can grow, we ask you to be with us. Ancestors of the West, the teachers, the wise ones, we ask you to be with us and give us some wisdom as we share these stories. And ancestors of the North, the old ones, we ask you to guide us so that whatever stories we share tonight will help somebody along their road right now to get where they need to be from where they are. Father Sky, Mother Earth, masculine and feminine, fire and water, we especially ask you in. We ask you to be here. We ask you to listen. We ask you to hear our stories so you know that we're still connected with you in a good way. We thank you for all the patience you have with these two-leggeds, and we promise that some of us are doing our best to help reconnect with you and all your creatures. We hope this storytelling time tonight is a little piece of that wheel, a little piece of helping to heal the sacred hoop wherever it is broken. Om Matakayase, all my relations. Oh,
Oh, and Kathy just disappeared. She's
whoop.
got a phone call.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
It's
Well,
funny.
in the interest of this, I would just like to share a story, and if the two of you want to go ahead, and I
Okay.
won't so worry about this recording here, but I might just stop it. Um, I'll leave it on for now. Because as I was reflecting on this, I shared with you, Dana knows, it's heard part of my big story with water. I didn't want to lead with that, I didn't want to intimidate people because, any story of fun as a child or whatever. So I thought, okay, and then I started realizing something. And I always say I've been so deeply connected to water since I was a child. Take a talking stick here. Um, and I love the water, but I wouldn't call it love hate, I love fear relationship with the water. Because by the time I was
Mm,
12 years old, I had almost drowned 3 times. And the first one, I was 4 years old, and I was visiting my grandmother who lived in a suburban neighborhood. And there were two little boys next door that I used to go and play with. They were a little older than me, especially one of them. And it was maybe about 9. And we were playing in this little kiddie pool, the little blow up pool. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, that boy decided to hold me down under the water and had the other boy push the water to make it sure it goes over my face.
mm,
And my grandmother was so intuitive. She just got up out of her chair and looked out the back window and saw it happening and came running and rescued me. And, I was all coughing up water and, like it was a very traumatizing experience. I had no idea what got into that little boy. And my grandma was really good with me and everything, but, and then there were 2 other times, one in the ocean and one in a swimming pool where I wasn't a very good swimmer and I got into the deep end and the lifeguard had to pull me out. And so those 3 times, it's interesting. I have a lot of lung issues too because my lungs filled up with water.
mm,
And when I remember that, I go, oh, so even though I craved the water and I wanted to go in the pool or the lake or the rivers, I was a water skier and swimmer, just loved to be in the water, there was always this little like excitement, tension around it, and like I was dancing with danger, kind of in a way. And actually, I learned to overcome that by becoming kind of a tomboy and a really like daring. You know, sometimes people who seem fearless are actually being they're
Hmm.
counteracting. And I know I learned to create a facade of I'm tough, you know, I'm not afraid of anything. And you know, I don't know if you know where Manatee Creek is, Jim, because Jim is in Pennsylvania near where I grew up. And there was
Oh, and it's, yeah. Hmm.
an old time covered bridge across this Manatee Creek, which was quite deep, it was a pretty big creek. And my aunt and uncle lived near there, and um, they used to take a group of us to the bridge, and off the bottom of the bridge, it was very high up, there was a big rope, and you could stand on one of the concrete abutments or supports of the bridge and jump off and swing on this rope down almost on the water and then up in the air way high up and then back, and then eventually you would swing up and jump out into the creek. Hey Robin, welcome.
Mm.
So I want to welcome you and say hi. You're muted, and maybe come on. And there were just the three of us here who know each other, and the other woman had to leave, and so I just started sharing the story. But I want to invite you to introduce
Go
yourself.
ahead, Maya. I'd love to hear it.
Hi, Robin.
I will continue it. You know Jim, and this is Dana. Have you met Dana during this time?
We know each other on Facebook.
Your name seems familiar to me, maybe from World Unity Week or other event.
Yes, she did a number of wonderful presentations during World Unity Week.
Mhm.
And who else have we got here? Dana and Maya and Jim and me. Okay.
That's it.
We several friends that were going to come on haven't come on, and the woman had to leave because she got an emergency phone call. So I just thought,
I
okay,
invited a bunch of people too, but so far one came, but then she had to go.
this is an experiment because
So,
unlike the circles that Jim and I do, where we have actually a lot of invited people. This was just see who shows up. Although I did invite you,
and so we're the four directions. It's fine.
we're the
That's great.
And actually, I do have my water ball here to catch the stories as I have for every event this week. Actually, I was telling Jim, a friend of mine stopped by and brought me several glass containers of water from Panther Meadows in Shasta from the spring there. So I added it to my water bowl.
Oh, another frequency of Shasta. Shasta keeps coming up for me every day. I think I'm supposed to go there. It just keeps coming up, Mount Shasta. So you're saying that water's in there?
Yes, I poured some of it in here. I have like 3 jars of it she left for me. So I thought, okay, I'll add that to this water for the upcoming.
Just absorb that water.
Yes. So yeah, since I was starting my story, I like take the talking stick back here. I have a very playful, fun one for storytelling, but and I just quickly go over what I was sharing, Robin, as I prepared to do this. I thought, well, you know, I need to tell a story too. I'm could be part of this circle. Oh, looks like Alian. Welcome. Alian is coming to us from India, from Sikkim, India.
Oh, beautiful.
Hi, Alien.
You just say hello so we hear your voice and tell the other where you're from and
Hello, everybody. I'm Alian, and I'm from Kalimpong, which is at the foothills of the Himalayas. And I'm from Lepcha tribe, indigenous to the region here.
Oh, lovely.
Is it very early there?
Yeah, it's 6 in the morning almost.
oh,
Oh,
Alian joined our elders and youth wisdom circle yesterday. No, Saturday. Mhm. And it was lovely to have you.
Thank you so
So,
much.
Alian, I was just beginning to share a story, and I was telling Robin just joined us, and I was sharing that while I was preparing for this, I thought I want to tell a story, you know, be part of a circle, not just lead it, but share. And so I started reflecting on my relationship to water. And I've always tell people, oh, since I was a little child, I loved the water and I wanted to be in the water whenever I could. And I was swimming and playing in the water and water skiing and all of that. But I started to realize as I was reflecting that I had this love fear relationship with water. And I was sharing with Jim and Dana before Robin and Eliane came on that by the time I was 11 or 12, I had almost drowned 3 times. And
Mm.
yeah, so that gave me this fear of water. The first one was in a little child's swimming pool, and a little boy tried to drown me. And I don't think he knew really what he was doing. And my grandmother saved me, but it was very traumatizing. And then 2 other times, once I had to be rescued by a lifeguard, and another time in the ocean, I swallowed a lot of water. And so even though I continued to love the water and wish I was a mermaid and just be in the water whenever I could and sing to the water. I used to sing to the water as a child. And, um, you know, so because I had this underlying tension though around it, as if, as I said, that dual relationship of love the water, but be a little afraid of it. I started to develop kind of a tough girl facade, like daring, like, and I was explaining that near where I grew up in Pennsylvania, there was it was really like a river, but it was called a creek there, Manatee Creek. And there was a covered bridge over it that had a long rope hanging from the bottom of it that you could get on this concrete foundation of the bridge and jump off and they, you know, get a thrill in your stomach because you'd go way down on the rope and swing up and then swing back. And then on the upswing, about the third time, you would just let go and dive into the water. And it was quite a thrill. And of course, that's where my fear edge came up, but I was like so proud that I could do this. And so later in life, I got to a place where I was backpacking in the backcountry up near Nevada City, and we came upon this big quarry that was filled with water, and the water was way far down, and I was so used to being a daredevil that you know, we were going to jump off this really high place down into the water, and my friends all jumped, and I went to jump. And they said they were below watching me, and they said your body arched out like it was going to dive and then retracted. And something happened to me, and the fear underneath all the daring all of a sudden came up, and I started shaking. And I looked down at that water, and there was no way I could jump. And I ended up sitting down and communing with the fear and realizing that I had this fear and kind of trying to make friends with it. And so it was a gradual journey. But one day, I had lived for 10 years on an island surrounded by water, by the ocean, Martha's Vineyard Island, before I moved to California. And I would go back every summer. And so later in life, I was there living on the island, and I had gone back for the summer actually from California. And one day I was in the ocean. I was with some friends, and it was just this beautiful warm day. And you know, there were breakers, and I got out beyond the waves, and I started to float on my back. And I was looking up at these big white fluffy clouds, and then something happened. I went somewhere else, and all of a sudden, I woke up and realized, looking at the clouds, I didn't know where I was. I had fallen asleep in Grandmother Ocean's arms. And I was so moved, I started to cry because I realized that I had surrendered and trusted the water to hold me and to be safe. And thank God I didn't drift out too far. And I was able to swim back in. But I was so grateful and said, thank you, thank you. Something really shifted for me. And I let go of my fear and found my trust again. So that is my story of the water.
Oh, nice.
Thank you for witnessing and hearing my story.
Mm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Because even for me on this journey, the awakening, as you would say, was a very violent one for me. And it leaves a lot of residue. And there is that fear of letting go completely and trusting. And I'm on the path, but there is the fear. So as you say, but there is also so much love. And I think that just takes over everything in those moments when it comes. And I'm so grateful you shared that. Thank you so much. I think I needed to hear that. Thank you.
My honor. And
Okay, I'll share one if I may.
I will hand the talking staff to you.
Okay. I've got my, wait a minute. Pipe carrier will take it. Pipe carrier wanted to be here tonight. So, just remembering some things as you were telling that story. I always loved water as well. I grew up here in the East, but I've lived all over the country. But growing up, I was always around water. Not far from the Atlantic Ocean, not far from the Chesapeake Bay. And there were a lot of rivers right around where I lived, and a big, huge swamp that I used to spend most of my free time in. My brother and one other friend, we would just go in the woods first thing in the morning and come back when my mother required for dinner. So I always felt connected. When I got into my late teens, I went down to the Chesapeake a lot. The Chesapeake Bay is a huge bay. Might be the largest in the country, I'm not sure. But it's a huge bay, and it goes and flows into the Atlantic Ocean on the bottom. So it has its own ecosystem and its own weather quite often. And we would fish and crab way back then. So we would go out in our little boat or a couple little boats, and they were just small boats that would carry maybe 3 people and a little putt-putt motor. And there was just 2 of us this time. And so we started out and we were fishing and we were just kidding around. It was a friend of myself. And we got out further and further because we wanted to, you caught the bigger crabs when you went out deeper. So we got out near the middle of the bay and suddenly we looked up and weather was coming at us very quickly. And on the bay, it can move really fast. So you're supposed to watch all the time. And if you see any clouds at all, you're supposed to turn around and go back. Well, we had not been doing that. So by the time we saw it, we immediately turned around, but we knew we couldn't get back in time. And this gigantic storm hit, and huge waves started kicking up, and it was literally throwing this boat with us in it all around. I bounced off the sides of the boat at least 2 times, maybe 3, and I was hurting pretty badly. I really hurt my right arm and my back. Thinking, okay, this is it. You know, the water's going to take us away on this one, because it was one of those things. It's just a small boat again. It would lift us up and literally throw us, and then it would slam back down. So I thought either the boat was going to break apart or it was going to submerge and we'd drown. And I started talking to the bay, and I always talk to everything in nature, which is probably why I was such a weirdo growing up. So I started talking to the bay, and I'm like, okay, we made a mistake. I should have turned around more quickly. I didn't pay attention. I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry. I won't let that happen again. I'll always pay attention. I'll be a protector. I'll work with you from here on out if you just get us back to shore. And that went on for a while. I guess I was saying it aloud because my friend going, who the hell are you talking to? And I said, I'm talking to the water because I don't know how we're going to get out of here. And then I stopped because we were trying to stay upright in this thing, and we had oars. His broke off, so I had the one oar, and suddenly we got tossed up really high, and I'm just holding my breath, thinking, "Is this it?" Tossed up high and thrown forward, and we came down on a bank on the side because we had no idea where we were or how far out we were. And so we just crawled out of this thing. We couldn't even pull the what was left of the boat after us. It was pretty well damaged. So the boat got taken back off again, and it was at least another hour before the storm really let up. And that was the most thankful, I guess, I've ever been to be on solid land. So I was dealing with the earth and the water, and so I got through it. And 50 years since, I've been connected very strongly to water. I've been a water protector. It shifted, but I was always very respectful and a little bit not scared, but very conscious of the water whenever I went on it because I've done other things in the water where I've gotten into trouble. I guess about 20 years ago, no, less than that now. Yeah, about 20 years ago, on my first vision quest, I went up on the mountain, and where my elders put me in my circle, there was a stream of water running down beside me. And so they thought this was a challenge because in a vision quest, no food and no water for 3 days, 4 nights. And for me, it was a great comfort thing because although I couldn't drink the water, that water just flowing there helped me release so many things in the time I sat up there that again, I thanked it when we were done. I thanked it all during the time I was up there. But when we were done, my perceptions of water changed again. And so from that point on, I was really a water protector. So when Standing Rock came, that was just a natural for me. So that's my stories of connections to water. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. May I have the stick?
Yes, absolutely. So,
Thank you. um, Gosh, I have a lot of stories about water and fire. I was kind of a daredevil too until I was about 9, and then I went swimming in a pond by a lake that we went to all the time. And I didn't know it, they dredged it out. I stopped in the middle thinking that I was going to just have a breath and, just be there for a little while. And I went down and down and down. I panicked. Yeah, I rose back up. I was on my third way down and somebody grabbed me and got me out of the water. And, I'd already heard the stuff about you got to get right back in. So I tried to do that and my body simply wouldn't let me. Nonetheless, I loved being on the water. Maybe not in it, but on it. I was a fisherman's daughter. We were out in the boat all the time. I've been in those kind of storms. Yeah. Had some real adventures with some of those storms. And yet that was all right. And I always had this feeling every kind of water had its own specialness. Yeah. Whether it was the mountain stream or the still pool or the ocean or snow and ice. And a little later in my life, when I went back to my res and the elders and stuff, they said there are actually at least 4 primary stages to every element. And surprisingly enough, those 4 were the stages of water. the still pond that reflects for us and that we love because it brings us to peace, and the running water, the stream that we can wash off and cleanse in, and that it takes away all those cares and worries. The solid water, ice and snow, which is one way to help put out fire. If you saw that picture of Colorado, one day absolutely filled with orange light, yeah, and the next day total snow. So that is one way it can happen. And then the water of the great storms, the hurricanes, the tsunamis, all those kinds of things, which are very powerful, but very easily can go out of control. Yeah. And then they told me about the four fires, and they said there's the ember. And if we look at it inside ourselves, it's the ember that keeps us alive. And then the fire of inspiration, and the community hearth fire that we all gather around and co-create and share our love. Yeah. And the fire of consumption, which sometimes is really necessary. Yeah, it's the way we get rid of things, but also can go out of control really easily. And then they started talking to me. I'm part Cherokee, so Cherokee have this thing called the law of opposites. And, you know, they tell us, well, if you're the center of your medicine wheel, you've got all kinds of opposites. You've got left and right and up and down and in and out and all that kind of stuff. And the world is full of that, day and night and so on and so forth. So how can the elements within and without complement each other? And we know that water is a complement to fire. It can douse the fire and bring it down. Yeah. But how do the other elements complement fire? How do the other elements complement water? Yeah. And I spent a number of years with those teachings trying to see how all that happened. And then one day in 2014, spring equinox actually, I was at home. I had a student with me. We had just finished talking about the 3 deer that came up every morning for her to feed them, and they had this eye contact and beautiful sharing together. And all of a sudden we heard this kaboom. And I thought that a 747 was going to crash land in the valley. We were running to the window, and there was this thing going across the front of the window, and my brain just wouldn't compute it. And then we looked to our right, and there was a huge wall of mud taller than the house rushing toward us. And the only thing I could do in that moment, maybe you'll understand what this is, Alyan. The only thing I could do in that moment is say, okay, if you want me, here I am. Yeah? And totally surrender. And I think the fact that we surrendered is what saved us. 43 people died. And we came out of that, yeah? From that moment of terror, at least that's what it should have been for everybody, yeah? For me, I'm not sure it was because it was so fast. I just immediately went into surrender, okay? But from that moment and from losing everything, something really, how do I want to describe it? Something totally fresh and new came. You guys saw the logo when I came on with Dance to Heal the Earth. That's a vision that was given out of that mudslide, because when I was under the mud and the water, I heard Mom scream, I didn't want this mountain to come down. This was human error. Yeah. And it turned out to be true because they'd illegally logged in a spot that they knew would collect water, and they'd had the county and state had had a geographical survey since 1999 that said it was a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah. So what I heard underneath the water was absolutely true. And when about 3 months later, a friend sent me a painting he'd done because of a painting that had come out of the mudslide with me that he had painted in the 90s. And he sent me a new painting on that same day. An elder, a Cherokee elder named D. Smith, sent me an email saying that there used to be a dance called Dance to Heal the Earth. And it hadn't been done in so long, nobody knew how to do it anymore. Okay. Well, this picture came, and here it is, a beautiful Native woman in her dance shawl, feathers sticking out of her hair. And I turned it over, and it was titled Earth Mother Dancing. And everything came together at once. And the vision started from there. And we've taken this dance to many places in the world since then. And it's been really, really, for me, it's been such an honor and a blessing. But it's also been such an honor and such deep work for the people who've danced. Yeah. They get a whole different perspective on what it means to be connected to and working for and protecting Mother Earth and the waters and the fire and the stone people. Yeah. All these things are interconnected, and on one level, we always know that. But on another level, we're so busy in our little concrete jungles that it's very hard to remember that. So for me, it's been a huge blessing that came out of that terrible mudslide. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you. I've spoken. Here's the stick.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. I just want to take that in for a moment. Let's all take a moment just to really drink in that big story. Mm. So we're sharing the stories that have transformed us, changed us, inspired us, and so each of us get to partake in the other's story. It's a mysterious process, but I get to share in that, and we all do. So thank you. And I hold the talking staff up, or whoever would like to go next, and then I'm going to go shut my door because there's some noise out there. That,
Good.
Dana, I pass the.
Thank you. I love that stick. Robin, I think I remember, did you lead a water blessing at the World Unity Week? Were you the one who led a
Yes, I did.
water? I participated in that. That was really, really nice.
Oh, yay.
Where we brought water and everybody had their water from their different places. And that was really beautiful event.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a blessing too, to see who was there, and that we could all participate in that together.
Yeah. So I love the ocean, and I've come to realize that I'm a mermaid. Like I really am a mermaid, and the ocean feels like home. The ocean feels like the closest to home on this planet, and I love the fluidity and the fluidity of water, the infiniteness of water. I think it's like the closest to where I come from that I can find on Earth. And I remember I'll just share a couple of like moments, a couple of experiences in my life, like sort of vignettes or snapshots. Um, one of the first that I remember of like really connecting with the ocean. We used to live in Italy when I was growing up, at least in my high school years, and my parents and I were on a driving trip down in the south of Italy, and I remember I don't know, we went to this pizza place that was kind of on the ocean, and there was a deck above, and the ocean was out there, like on a beach. We were kind of above, and I just remember like there was a moment I just looked out into the vast darkness of the sea at night, and it was one of those nights where there wasn't a moon, so that it was just the sea and the sky merging into this infiniteness. And I was so taken with it that I ran down, out of the deck area and ran down to the beach, and I just had to like absorb that, the sea at night. And just because I just realized, wow, I can't see the horizon. I didn't want to see the separation. I wanted it just like it was, like just to see that infinite, the sea and the stars, almost like the background that I have on my picture here, but darker, like the sea and the stars merging into this one infinite, beautiful thing. And then from there on, I just fell in love with the sea at night, especially on nights that were very dark where I couldn't see the horizon. And I'll always try to find that. I'll always go and see the sea at night, like wherever I am. I just love that so much because of the connection to the infinite. And that was when I was maybe like, I don't know, 17 or 16, 17 years old or something like that. Then when I went to college, I did a semester abroad in Australia where I was studying rainforest ecology. And in our spring break, a number of us went to go learn how to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef, which we were near. And I just had the amazing chance to learn to dive on one of the most beautiful underwater environments in the whole world. And at that time, it was quite a long time ago, so it was very pristine still. It hadn't quite been messed up yet. And I don't even know if that area, it was an outer reef, so it's maybe one of the ones that might still be somewhat pristine. But that was what opened up my whole connection to the ocean, like the underwater world, the world of what's in the ocean, and that was a life-changing experience to learn to dive on the Great Barrier Reef. And I just remember like there were whole worlds under there. It was like cities. It was like the architecture of it. It wasn't just flat, like when you go snorkeling and you're just sort of seeing something and kind of two-dimensional. It was like three-dimensional towers and castles and arches and the corals and all the colors and the sea life and giant clams, turtles, colored fish of all kinds, colored coral of all kinds, the soft corals like the gorgonians. It was a really, really amazing underwater world. And I think that was another key moment where I just connected to the ocean. And fast forward some more years, like I almost, well, I wound up touching in marine biology. I did an internship in Bermuda. Again, got to do some diving and be in an ocean environment. I just love the environment so much, but I think I was also meant to go on a different path and into the path of spirituality and the integration of science and spirituality. So I kind of went off the traditional academic path. But later, when I went to Hawaii, for the first time, I got to meet the dolphins in the bays, and really connected with the ocean and the dolphins, because there's these areas in Hawaii where you can swim with the wild dolphins that come in, and there's people that come to the Big Island and even settle on the Big Island specifically to be connected with the dolphins in that way. We even call it the dolphin community, or the dolphin podners community, because people who love the ocean and love the dolphins and whales come to be there. And then I wound up living in that area for a long time, and just got to connect with the ocean and the dolphins regularly as part of my life. And that was just an amazing, beautiful ocean and ocean life connection. And the dolphins are kind of like almost like brothers and sisters to me. Like I feel a very just close, familiar connection. Just like, yeah, hi, like, hi, you're here, just really fun like that. And then I also have had the amazing experience to swim with the whales. And it's not legal to swim with the whales in Hawaii, but I went to different places in the world where you can swim with the whales. I've been to Tonga, the island of Tonga, and that was where I met them for the first time in the water, the humpback whales. And their consciousness is huge. I think of all the living beings on Earth, they are the most advanced consciousness, the whales. They're just vast, vast, and huge loving presences, but love in a way that's very, very huge, not so like human, just hard to explain. But anyway, so I've connected with the whales in the water, and they're also like family, like the dolphins and whales are like family to me. And I've been very, very close to them, just like very close, and with babies and moms, and just the beautiful interactions, the babies kind of coming out, like coming up and then going down, and the moms hanging below and very trusting, and just being in that amazing presence. And I've done that a number of times. I've done that in Tonga. I guess it was 11 years ago first, and then I had another chance to swim with them again last year, and both in Tonga and in French Polynesia. And so I guess my spirit sort of wants me to have these connections and makes it possible for me to find ways to meet these soul brothers and sisters, the dolphins and whales in the ocean. So I just love that so much. I love the ocean. I love the dolphins and whales. I love the corals, all of what I experience in the ocean, the water itself. And, people see me in the ocean and they say I'm a mermaid. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But sometimes people see me not in the ocean and they still say I'm a mermaid. So that shows me that there's something, there's something essential, like a connection that's essential that they're seeing, even if they don't know me or see me in the water. So anyway, those are some beautiful water moments I just wanted to share.
Thank you, Dana, for taking us on a journey with the whales and the dolphins and the coral. And I think some of us have also had similar experiences. It just is, yeah, you just brought us the joy of that level of the water. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will just take a moment to take in that love, that deep love of the water and the beings that live in the water. And then I will offer the stick for.
Yeah, may I take
I hand to you.
It's funny because I hadn't thought about water and the connection I had, but the presentation that I would be giving later, I would speak more in detail. So this awakening that happened, I was actually living in Goa, which is by the sea. And initially, I was afraid, and it was actually a sea being that opened the door for me. And I was very afraid of it. Sometimes I still am. But during the moment or during the times that it was happening, it was scary. But when I left, and after some time, I was very grateful to the sea and the moon at that point of time, and this being who I still don't understand fully, but I'm very grateful to him for opening the door. That is my connection to the water and to the place. And it doesn't scare me anymore. I'm just grateful. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. I'm curious about your being, your ocean being, a male energy. Huh. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye, Robin. We can't hear you.
You're
Always forget that thing.
Yeah, I know.
I said bye, everyone. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be with you, and I'm sure we'll see each other again on on a Zoom here somewhere soon.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Robin.
for your powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm sorry I was late today because of the internet connection.
You know what? It was just so like the waters. It was flow. I've never done a storytelling circle where people are coming and going and
Yeah.
what it is. It's fluid. It's a fluid storytelling. And
Yeah.
I welcome you wherever you came. And sorry you had trouble with internet.
Yeah.
There've been different challenges with that, but can I send you the talking staff for your story, Barry?
Uh, in my case, I mean, it's a very, I keep talking about this, so it doesn't feel special anymore, but I know it's special. Um, so as I speak, I want to just think of my ancestors and think of my rivers, not really my river, but the river I belong to. And so I was never a river person or neither ever talked about water, and I was in my own world. I think Alian and I go a long way back in from Delhi days when I used to work in a proper advertising company where I was trying to promote brands, which meant a lot for them. And yeah, so I went through my own journey of understanding myself, and it took a long time, but the right time for me. And while I was in Delhi, I was like, you know, I was posed with two questions. There were this in 2007, there was a big hunger strike regarding the movement that I'm talking about. So I was in Delhi that time, and I got associated with a lot of these blogs, which was talking about people going under a hunger strike, and people were like, you know, suffering, and they're talking about this dam and the Holy Land for lepchas. So I also didn't know about like my own tribe or my community. I had no idea, and that kind of made gave me a window to curiosity as to what is this about. Do we have a holy land? I thought only, like, you know, I thought of only Mecca and I think Jerusalem. I mean, how come we have holy land? That was a big paradigm shift for me, and that gave me curiosity. And in 2008 or 9 there was this big article which was on the front page, which talked about the last shaman of the Lepcha community dies. And so one of them just posed a question to me, what are you going to do? And I didn't have any answers to that. And I think sometimes when you are asked a question and you don't find an answer, you take a lifetime answering that. And that's what has happened to me, because I still don't have the answer, but I'm still answering. The question was way back in 2008, I guess. Yeah. But that question remained in me for a very long time, and I kept going to the village, So the first visit to the village was very adventurous. So the Gatsu Lepcha, who is an activist that who I'll be presenting with, he was a young chap, and so he took me to his village without any permit. So I really had to hide in the car without the permit, because I was a lecturer from another state, so I was not allowed there, and people things are pretty heated up that time. So that is how I went to this village and Zongu, and then after that series of visit happened, but uh, during that time, my first visit, I was told to give a speech, and I had never given a speech, and I was like really worried what to say. But I talked about the 7-year-old child when he is basically in a school in a foreign state or in a different place, and you meet somebody from his own community. It just becomes a familiar thing. Not only they become friends, their parents become friends. For example, a lecture boy and another lecture girl, small kids who meet in a school and they have the same surname, they become friends, So I was just talking about that in the speech, and I felt like, so that is what identity means. That's how I began, but I had no clue about my own identity. But in order to encourage, and I was nervous, but somehow I gave, and so these kids looked up to me, and they were like, oh, she's from Delhi, she's from like, I had not quit my job then, so they were like, oh, she might be doing something nice. She came and she gave a speech, so so I was like, I didn't feel complete, and just to go there and give a speech on identity where I didn't even know about myself, I just felt incomplete. It didn't make sense to me. I just felt like I was being dishonest to myself. So eventually, in what happens is, when you don't listen to your heart, your body starts speaking, and I had become like a zombie, when working in an advertising firm and trying not to, it was, you are not doing what you want to do, and you're just walking. And that is the time when I started traveling towards the other side of the Himalaya. So Himalaya is like a long belt, right? So we are on the, I think, eastern side. So I went towards the western side, and I started traveling, and I was looking at the dam aspects that side also, but it was not still deeper. So when that happened, eventually in 2012, I quit my job because I was not able to sleep. I was not happy. People could see that I was not happy, and there was something, and I had to make this bold step to really like move. And when I did, I went to the same village and I started documenting the stories of the elders. That is where I met the elders, and that is where they spoke a language which touched your heart. And when these shamans talked about nature, it was totally different. And finally, in 2015, I got an opportunity to make the film called Voices of Tista. But I was very nervous, very, very nervous. And because I didn't know if I would be the right person, because I was not a filmmaker. But I still remember I went to the riverbanks where these two rivers meet, the confluence of River Tista. And one of my colleague had told me, because I was so nervous, that why don't you go and talk to the river? So I went there, and I went to the confluence, and I just sat there for a very long time. Um, and I've never had this like a conversation, right? And even though it sounded weird, but it sounded so right. So I sat there, and I felt like I got this feeling that I was the medium, and I was just a medium, and I needed to say something to people for the river. But I asked the river, what is it that you want to tell me? What is it that you have to? What is it that I have become the medium? It just these questions just came naturally. I didn't get the answers. I don't get. I mean, I didn't get answers, like sometimes this connection that you have and the vision. I didn't get any of it. But then I began my work, and in a span of 3 months, such a huge project when I had to travel as a women filmmaker. I mean, all my staff, all my colleagues, my work people were all male, and I had to travel to really remote places, and it was very scary. There were a lot of landslides. I could have like died anywhere, you know. There were incidences which happened, but I think it just guided me. Everything was so easy. Everything was, they were coming and giving me informations. And so one very weird thing that I felt when I was really high up in the mountains, in the glacial mountains, and that was the source of River Tista. I went there and I couldn't breathe, and I was having this mountain sickness. And somehow I did this circle. We call it Kora in Buddhist. So it's like a spiritual walk. So the lake is a very holy lake. It is called the Guru Dongmar Lake, and that, it looked very small, but it took me 2 hours to finish that lake walk. It looked very small, and I went there thinking it's gonna take me half an hour. but but I guess that was a, I think, trickster, you know, acting on, and I liked that. And I went, and so I saw this yak which was submerged, you know, yak was submerged in the lake, and I told everybody, but nobody saw that, and I don't know what is it still, but I felt like there were things which were there in my path and my ancestors there with me. And after that, this whole journey of river came in. I mean, I'm still doing it, but I think the river is speaking through me without even me realizing it. And I wanted to acknowledge that. I mean, sometimes I find it difficult. I must say that, but I also honor it. So I don't know if it's a magical story, but it's something which I was very personal story I shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of water and being guided by the water, that's what I hear. Oh.
Yeah.
So let's just take a few breaths to just take this in and actually drink this into our hearts. Just open, we've been open-heartedly listening to each other, and just to drink that in. Jim?
I just wanted to say what Minkat was just saying just went right to my gut, and in a good way. So there was some connection there. And, you know, I've thought about this before, but Aline and Minkat, they're from a part of the world that's shamanism grew up. Mm-hmm. I'm from the other part. I'm Ramani Gypsy. So my people are also shamanic tradition. And I wonder if that's part of what I feel when they're talking about that region. Because in the past, both of them, I've just felt this strong connection, and that's the water again. So anyway, it was the perfect group here tonight. I'm also just, once again, ruminating on the fact that I'm the only male energy who showed up for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not completely balanced.
Well, I honor you for being the anchoring the male energy here, and I'm
yeah, and it's I hear you, and it's not good or bad, but it's still something we need to deal with because we are not yet in balance, and we got to continue to work towards that, I think. So thanks, Maya, for doing this. It was a great.
Well, and yeah, Dana wants to say something. I just want to say thank you. We went a little over the time, but I allowed actually an extra half hour, you know, for the half hour for this because I had no idea how many people would come. And I honor you all for just coming in late, Minkat and Alian and Dana for deciding to stay when others were going. I'm trusting that flow. It was very unique storytelling, but it would just happen beautifully. So thank you. And Dana, you wanted to say something.
I want to ask, what tribe are you from, Alian and Minkat? Are you from the same tribe, and what is it?
Yes, we both belong to the same tribe. We are the Lepchas. Actually, people from outside call us the Lepchas, but we call ourselves Ronkup. I can write it down. And Ronkup and Rongmit are basically the children of the god. That is what the folktale tells us. And so basically, the folklore says that we were born out of the snow of the Kanchenjunga. And so there were this male and female who were the first human being on Earth. At least I feel like there were many Earths before, but this particular story has that. And then so this our tribe has our mountain peak. There is a lake and there is a cave, and we always pray to that. And the river becomes the guidance for us because death is not ending for us. It is just a way to go to the other side. And we have never treated like we don't celebrate birthdays as such. It is always like death is very important for us. So when we die, the ceremony is very very important. And yeah, so we are known to be nature lovers. We have a lot of folklore based on nature, and we are known basically for that. But we are very marginalized now. So we both Alin and I both come from a section of West Bengal where we are very less, and of course, our language is on the verge of dying. That's what they say, but I wouldn't want to believe it. So, yeah, that's what it is.
How do you say water in your language?
A
Water.
water in lecture, it is
Say again?
Our pronunciations are very different, but I must say I don't know my language, yeah, but I know certain things in the words, and it is
Ooh. Ooh.
Just a second, I'll just write it down. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So your culture is quite different than India. Like you're in India, but it's a whole different.
Yeah.
Is it more like Nepal?
It's more of like Asian, for example. Yeah, Burma, I wouldn't say exactly like Burma, but our cultures are very much, yeah, you can say Burma actually. Yeah, like Burma, but there is, have you heard of northeast side of India is very much influenced with Burma, China, Tibet. So this kind of family we have. So and we have our elders were very very versatile because they have names for everything in nature. They have names for everything, and they can make anything from, like, for example, bamboo, and they were known for medicinal plants. So many scholars who came from the Western world took the lepchas as one of the escorts to venture in the forest. So that's how it was. I don't know if you know about J.D. Hooker. He was one of the finest botanists. So he had come to Eastern Himalaya and he had taken the lepchas to guide him for the book that he had written.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I can just write his name.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, okay.
So Minkat, you inspired me, especially in your story ending with the river and going to the river, because I had brought a couple of poems thinking, what I might share, and maybe we can close with this. And I also want to, as we close, thank the four elements and the four directions for holding us in this sacred space to share these deep heart connected stories of our relationship. And I thought, I opened it to water and fire, and somehow we all told stories of the water. And so the water predominated here tonight. And I have my own fire stories. And I also was honoring that the fire has been very used to storytelling. Usually traditions, all indigenous,
Yes.
and all the way to kids at camp now, we tell stories around the fire. And we were sharing in a conversation the other day about how the fire had been that center, that connector for people to sit in circle and have equal value sharing. And yet in the modern culture, people have taken torches of the fire and used it power over, taken it so it's not about the circle anymore. But we are all returning to the circle. So it is not just the water, the fire is helping to bring us back together again. So I just name the fire in that way and thank it for us drawing our communities together. I would love to share this poem I was inspired by Mary Oliver, who was a beautiful Native American poet who just reveres nature, and her poetry is so, she's inspired me a lot. And this poem is called, and I dedicate this to Minket and Alien, who are river people, and Dana's an ocean person. I think I'm not all of those, and Jim. The river. What can I say? Inside the river, there is an unending story, and you are somewhere in it. A single speckled leaf, a burnished pebble, the downy feather of an owl, being tumbled along into mad spirals and eddies, dashed against rocks or marooned on the dark mud banks. You are also that endless turbulent flow, sometimes soothing itself into stillness with its own musical voice, forever here in its winding dance through meadows and forests, yet forever returning to the boundless ancestral sea. What can I say but take your lonely heart to the river and remember who you are? So the water is helping us remember who we are, whether it's mermaid or filmmaker or shaman.
Yeah. Thank you, Maya. I just feel so nice because I'll be kind of presenting on 17th, and the caption for that session is "Which river do you come from?"
Oh,
I guess it's the language that we use.
beautiful. I notice how many more people are speaking in circles saying what river, what land they come from, what indigenous people are of their land, and what waters they're by is becoming more common for us to speak that way again. And it excites me that we're reconnecting with the land in the way we name ourselves.
Thank you, everyone. It was beautiful.
Jim blew out the candle. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you all.
So we'll see you around in the other rooms and in the Four Elements room later. Dana's presenting Thursday.
I was wondering, Maya, is Alien's presentation happening now or is it later?